3, 2, 1, and hello and welcome to YQL Real Talk. Today I'm here with Murray Wall, who is a realtor here in Lethbridge. You might have seen him on YouTube, TikTok, social media, all that sort of stuff. You should check out his channel. Murray is the information guy. I feel like your videos are super in depth and you have a ton of info and a ton of articles that you go over that are super in depth, that are more in depth than even my videos. So if you haven't seen Murray yet, check him out. Today, we're going to be talking about what happened in the real estate market in 2023 in Lethbridge, Alberta, and what our predictions are for 2024.
Yeah, so lots of info coming your way.
Let's get into it. So 2023 was kind of a crazy year. If you look like Canada-wide, places like BC and Ontario, as interest rates started to climb, their prices started to drop pretty dramatically, like upwards of like 20% in some of those areas, and we'll get into the numbers. Contrasting that, when you're hearing about the news, all you hear is the Canadian real estate market is crashing all over the place.
And that mostly means Vancouver and Toronto, and maybe sometimes they throw Calgary in there, but
the Calgary didn't crash.
Calgary's against the grain, just like Lethbridge.
You hear Canada's crashing, but apparently Canada is only BC and Ontario. So what I'm saying is that did not happen in Lethbridge, like whatsoever, right? We had our prices held steady and have actually increased a little bit. Again, we'll get into some more numbers here. But in general, that's kind of what happened. Those bigger centers, their prices came down, record low sales. And here we didn't have record high sales, but we're damn close, right? So.
Yeah, and that's because we'll get into the numbers, but yeah, there was kind of a lack of listings. So if we had more listings on the market, we definitely would have seen more sales because, lots of people are moving here.
Yep. So let's start off with days to sell. You go ahead. You pulled up these numbers. So
days to sell. So the average days that a property stayed on the market was the third lowest that we've seen in the last 10 years. So properties are definitely moving quicker than normal, like significantly quicker. Back in 2019, there was around like 85 days on the market, and just last year it was closer to like 50 days on the market for the average home to sell. And that's conditions final, property inspection waived, financing waived. And those usually take around 2 weeks anyways. So
if you subtract those 2 weeks out of here, it's actually even quicker before you can get your hands on a property, right? So, for us, like when I tell clients that our average day market is 55 to 60, they're like, oh, wow, we got lots of time, because BC and Ontario, as soon as a house goes up, like during COVID, it was like multiple offers, 15 people going through, like just crazy. But for us, this is like a really good, healthy market. Like it's fast, but it's not too crazy either. So you likely don't run into a lot of competing offers, which is good. But because of other pressures, the average day market is really low.
Yeah, and that's including some houses, they stay on the market for over 100 days, especially new built homes, because they're not even constructed really until further on into it. So that's taking all those numbers into account. And it seems higher, but it is moving pretty quick.
Just one sec. My furnace kicked on. I'm going to turn it off.
All right.
Is active listings. So number of active listings on the market.
So looking at the active listings, there's always an ebb and flow. So in the winter, we generally have less listings on the market. And then in the summer, there's more listings on the market. And also there's more buyers in the summer and there's less buyers in the winter. So it kind of equals out, but everything was kind of like up and down, up and down, up and down. And then 2020, it just went down and then it didn't really recover. And then 2021, it went down again and then it didn't really recover. And here we are in 2023 and we have a record low amount of listings on the market. So
if you were to overlay a graph, I think with interest rates, you would see this like inversely effect. So as interest rates started to go up, active listings started to go down, because once you have locked into like the 1.8 or 2 or 3 or whatever, you don't want to sell and go up to a 5, right? So inversely, when interest rates started to drop, then active listings probably went up, which we kind of saw, I guess, in like 2019, 2020. That's when interest rates were at their low. And then, like I said, as soon as interest rates peaked, active listings went down because nobody wants to sell.
Yeah. I tell people, you can port your mortgage over to your new house and keep the rate that you're currently at, but there's
or blend them.
A couple more steps there, and just there's just less listings on the market, but we still saw we can go back to here. What was it? Yeah, where am I looking here? The average, the amount of actual sales that we had. So we have a record low amount of listings on the market, but last year we saw the third most sales that we've seen in Lethbridge in history. So
you're saying last year, number of sales?
Yeah, the number of sales, yeah. So we saw, let me see.
So the peak was 2021.
Yeah.
And we've kind of decreased from then for number of volume.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of crazy because, like I said, with that interest rate increasing, we should see this come way down, and it's come down, but not to like pre-pandemic levels like we saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you think with the interest rates going up that we would see less sales, but the big factor is the amount of people that are actually moving into Alberta and Lethbridge specifically. They just can't afford the houses out in Toronto and Vancouver or. Yep. On Ontario as a whole. So
I think everybody right now from a lot of different pressures are seeking affordability. Mm-hmm. So Lethbridge is one of the best places to be when it comes to that. With these, what the heck was I going to say now? With the amount of sales volume, what you're saying, sorry, about people moving here. I think our census just came out and we're now at 105,000 and last year we're at 1,100. Mm-hmm. So we gained our net population growth was like 4,000. So I'm sure people left. I've had sellers that packed up and moved to other cities. Of course, that happens all the time for work or whatever. But the net population is like another 4,000 people in Lethbridge, which is pretty significant when our population is only at 100,000, right? So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It's like almost for every person that's leaving, there's two more people coming in here, and we
wonder why there's no housing inventory.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can look at the average price. So last year we did see a record high price, but it was only a 0.4% increase from 2022. So
fairly steady, but a slight increase.
Yeah, slight increase, but houses are not running up like super high or anything like that. They're still way more affordable than other places in Alberta. I know Calgary, they saw their home prices increase by like $50,000. So
yep, yeah, which I think they're not quite double Lethbridge, but they're damn close as well when it comes to like average home price. I think average detached price they're double.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you could buy two houses in Lethbridge, live in one, rent out the other, and you have pretty much all the same amenities as Calgary. And if you want,
you can just an IKEA though.
Don't have an IKEA, but you can always take a 2-hour drive, go to Calgary, 2-hour drive back. And the other thing in Lethbridge, like the average commute is like 15 minutes. In Calgary, it's closer probably to half an hour.
If you don't get stuck in traffic.
And if you're getting stuck in traffic, that's even more. So if you just look at the amount of time that you're spending in your car week to week, you could literally drive to Calgary every weekend from Lethbridge and you would spend less time in your car and spend half as much on your house.
Exactly. Yeah, for me and my wife, we've always said that too, like to live in one of the most affordable places in Canada, if I have to drive 2 hours to get to an IKEA, the once a year, whatever you need to go, it's not that big a deal.
No, yeah. And my wife, she moved here from Europe and she didn't have a driving license or anything like that. And if we lived in Calgary, she probably still wouldn't have a driving license because it's just, a lot more traffic. And as a new driver coming to Lethbridge, it's just so easy. Our roads are super wide. There's pretty much no traffic unless maybe at 8 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock or something when people are going to and from work. But
even then a traffic backup here is not like rush hour in any city. It's just a little bit of a pain, but it's still
you got to wait 2 minutes at the light. It's like, okay, the light turns green and everyone goes and then you're gone basically.
Close to list price ratio, a little bit tighter, but still fairly consistent with what we've seen. So.
Yeah, Lethbridge just seems to be like the last 10 years you look at it, it's like the average negotiation from prices that are listed to what they actually close at is right around 2%. We saw a tighter market in 2022, but 2023, 2% pretty much. So,
Yep. So which is important for people to know when you're coming here, because they're like, lots of people I find from especially Ontario right now, their housing prices have taken such a hit that they're like, oh, well, the market's slow here, so when I come to Lethbridge, I'm going to lowball everything. And I'm like, no, we still have a strong market. Our average close price is 2%. So you can expect 2% off of the list price. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit more. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit less.
Yeah.
But
on the
just
average
bank on that
house,
2%.
it's like, let's say it's a $350,000 house. You're looking at maybe 10 to $5,000 off the price of what they listed it at, if they listed it at a right price. And we obviously know what the right prices are.
Of course. And you can look up stats and like justify the price, but I wouldn't say just look at the price that's listed at and take 2% off.
No,
but because it's still a stat. So some will sell below the 2%. Some will
obviously
sell above,
it depends, of course. But I've had the opposite as well. People from out of town are like, how much do you think we can get this for? Like, should we offer like 10 grand more or this or that? And it's like, no. Let's just let's figure out a different price. Cause it's not like that kind of market. My buddy bought a place in Fernie and they offered like 40 grand over the asking price. This was a couple of years ago as well, but we're well past that market now. So
thank God. Brutal. So getting into a few articles here. Sounds like, so I guess that's like, before we move on, I guess that's kind of a recap of the 2023 housing market. Basically we had very low inventory, very new listings, a lot of buyers, which you combine those two, supply and demand. There's little supply, high demand. So prices increased. Thankfully, they haven't increased like crazy. Yeah. Right? I think it almost seems like they should have increased more.
If the interest rates stayed low, I think they would have increased more because then people would have had more buying power. But with the interest rates coming up, we saw our prices not skyrocket or whatever. And then in other places, they did see their prices decrease, like Toronto and Vancouver. But
you heard it here first.
Yeah.
That does make sense though, right? If interest rates were dropped, there'd obviously be like probably twice as many buyers. Like how many people out there right now are waiting for interest rates to drop before they get in the market?
A
bajillion. I've got like a list of people this long that are like, we're just waiting for the interest rates to come down. Which you can do, but be warned. So is everybody else. So as soon as that happens, buyers are going to start jumping back in.
Yeah, and then we might see multiple offers, and you might end up paying even more. There's different mortgage options. I mean, we're not mortgage brokers, but you can lock in for 1 year, or you can go on a variable and then lock in when the interest rates do come down.
Yep.
And just the whole home buying process would be a lot less stressful if there was less multiple offers. So I would love a more balanced market, but
I just don't see it.
No, I don't really see that coming either. Just with the record low amounts of properties on the market, it's just there's less properties. There's going to be more offers on those single properties, right?
Yeah, really the only thing I think that could help us is more listings. So there are people in Lethbridge that can sell, but with the amount of people moving here, even if interest rates dropped and we got like double the amount of listings, if we got double the amount of listings, would that change things, or is there still enough people moving here? That's probably too many.
Double. Yeah. Well,
double would be pretty awesome.
Double. If we got double the amount of listings from where we're at, that would put us back still below like 2019 levels.
No.
Like what do we have? we have like under 400 listings, and in 2019 we had over 800 listings.
Crazy.
So yeah, even with the double amount of listings, like we've seen it before, and prices were pretty similar. Like obviously prices in 2019 were lower, but it's pretty crazy out there.
It should be a headline. Even if Lethbridge doubled their listings, our housing market would still be competitive.
Yeah,
crazy.
But people don't want to leave Lethbridge. They don't want to sell their houses. So
no. And speaking of like, I was looking. It's probably changed a little bit because I saw a couple new listings. But it was about 2 weeks ago. I was looking up what was for sale in Copperwood. So for anybody that doesn't know from out of town, Copperwood, I feel like is one of, and I've said this in a ton of my videos, Copperwood's like the ultimate family community. Like Halloween, there's like 200 kids running down the street. Like you'll get like 200 kids trick-or-treating. Like it's absolutely wild. It's like the newest, most built out new development on the west side. Right. And it's one of the highest turnovers also neighborhood on the west side. So there's lots of homes being sold and bought. So there's lots of turnover
lots of
here.
young families that, you know, they have a
bought
kid
3
and then
years
they
ago.
want a bigger house or
So that's really high turnover. So I'm really surprised when I saw this, but there was 15 homes for sale in all of Copperwood. 11 of them were new builds. 2 of them were condos, and the other 2 were detached properties that both had offers.
Yeah.
So it was like, if you want to get in Copperwood, it's new or nothing. So to me, that says to the builders, let's get building.
Copperwood is our biggest neighborhood in Lethbridge. I'm pretty sure.
Really? Biggest neighborhood?
Yeah, I think so. They started building in 2000. Well, I did a whole video on Copperwood. You can check out my YouTube channel for that. But they started building in 2007, and they're still building new houses today. And it has become our biggest one, I'm pretty sure.
Crazy.
But yeah.
So there's your summary for 2023. Looking to 2024, what's going to happen?
Well, the Bank of Canada is saying that they are done their tightening cycle and that they're going to hold rates steady until the latter half of 2024. And then they're going to, I don't know, some people are predicting like 4 rate decreases by like 100 basis points. So maybe like 25, 25, 25, which would bring it down 1% basically.
That is very encouraging. But I don't believe them for one freaking second because they've said this a million times. Like, you can't trust what they're going to say coming up. I hope that's correct and we can finally start to trust Mr. Tiff Macklin. But until then, proof is in the pudding. Let's see it.
He told us that interest rates were going to be very low for a very long time. And then like 2 months later, they were like, yeah, actually, we're just going to increase the heck out of them. But
the crazy thing with that is like they just held interest rates just recently. Was it yesterday or the day before or something?
Yeah.
This week?
Wednesday. Yeah.
Yesterday. And inflation numbers were up. So they're like, yeah, we're going to hold rates. But inflation numbers include things like gas and housing. Gas and housing have literally been climbing this whole time. Maybe not now because they only count BC and Ontario, but gas prices is like one of the things that's included in inflation. And what keeps contributing to higher gas prices? Carbon tax.
Yeah.
There's like another carbon tax increase that's coming too. So it's like we're trying to fight inflation with taxes and higher interest rates. I don't know what the solution is, but it just does not compute in my brain.
Yeah. Basically, from my understanding, is they just look at what the inflation number is. And if the inflation number goes up, they just keep raising their interest rates to try to combat it. And it's worked in the past, but it's like if you keep increasing
I'm not saying it's not working because it is decreasing a little bit, but I don't know if there's another solution or not.
So that might be a more, something that you should keep an eye on is just like what the interest rates, or not the interest rates, what the inflation numbers reports are coming out at, because that's what the Bank of Canada looks at, and that's what determines what the rate cuts are actually going to be. So if inflation does go up this year, we probably won't see those rate cuts. So, but I guess time will tell on that.
What else? What's next?
Last year there was a report from CMHC that came out and said that Canada needs to build an additional 3.5 million housing units by 2030. And that's including the housing units that are already under construction, already planned. And that's across Canada.
On top of the ones that are already planned.
Yeah.
So that's not happening.
Yeah.
That's my prediction for 2024 is 3.5 million additional new housing starts. Not happening by 2023.
Yeah, that is
2030.
A ridiculous amount. I mean, that's like 6 years away, and it's basically like 500,000 homes per year.
Good luck with that.
That they need to build on top of what they're already building. And I think there's reports that came out that it's like housing starts in Canada are down. So it's like that number is probably going to increase as we get closer to 2030. So
I know there's lots of pressures on interest rates go up. It's like harder on builders, right, to keep building because now I know there's like big money guys that will invest in new development and new like big developments because they can make a good return. But now that like interest rates are so much higher, like they demand a bigger percentage, right? Because they could just put their money in a friggin' easy GIC at 6% right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So now they're going to demand like probably 9, 12. I don't know. I don't have that much money that I know what makes it, what makes them tick. on that side of it, but I just know that it just becomes so much more expensive to do. So when it's more expensive to finance, it's also more expensive to build. Interest rates are up, so it's harder for people to get approved, and it's just like a big spiraling cycle. So.
Yeah. Well, if any big builders want to come to Lethbridge and start building, we have record low supply right now. So
we got good builders, Murray.
Yeah.
We need the builders here to start growing.
Yeah. I guess, the builders here start building more because we need some houses to sell here. So, what else do we got here?
Well, they're saying most of the housing supply gaps are Ontario and British Columbia, which who's writing these? Because we just went over some numbers and said we have record low inventory. So there is a housing supply gaps here in Lethbridge as well.
Yeah, I think some of these stats came out of one of the big banks. And of course, they're looking at Ontario and BC. But that's why you should listen to our podcast to hear about Lethbridge, because you're not going to hear about it anywhere else.
Apparently not. This is the only one.
No one's talking about it. Not the big banks anyways. But there was, speaking of that report, the housing affordability in BC, what was it? They need 102% of their household income in order to afford their home.
This was a report by RBC, which has basically across Canada, the share of income a household will need to cover ownership costs in percentage. So in Canada overall, the average is 62%, which if you listen to or if you read any personal finance books, they say you're not supposed to spend over 30% on your own, own housing. So it used to be said, if you're reading these books, that if you're spending more than 30%, you're living too lavishly and you should cut back and live within your means. It's almost freaking impossible.
They're going to have to rewrite those books because there's no world where we're going to see that. Maybe
unless you
move in Lethbridge. Yeah. Vancouver, it's 102% of your household income to cover your ownership costs. And Toronto, it's 84%. So
bonkers.
People literally need to pick up a second job in order just to live in these places. I don't understand.
In Calgary, 47%, which is better. Edmonton is 36.7%. And I believe Edmonton, their housing market is slightly higher than ours. It's pretty close.
It's pretty close, yeah.
But it is a little bit more expensive up there. So I would imagine that Lethbridge is closer to that 34, 35%, which is even better.
And Lethbridge is warmer than Edmonton. I might have you add
a lot warmer. A lot warmer.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy
and safer.
The discrepancy.
Despite what you hear on Reddit or whatever, there was just another shooting in Edmonton. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, no, our crime rate is technically higher in Lethbridge, but if you look at our homicides and stuff, our homicides are way lower because people aren't dying here. It's just petty crime, and lots of it is in the downtown area or not in the suburbs and in Copperwood or something like that.
Our population is only 100,000, so I just feel like there's crime and it gets reported a lot quicker and a lot maybe even over-reported.
Yeah, we have a high police detection rate because we have a lot of police, so they're catching a lot of things.
Or one police officer to every 9 people here.
Yeah,
that seems crazy to me. That seems like too many.
Should
get rid of some of those cops.
Did you see that they just bought a big armored truck yesterday?
For what?
A $500,000 armored truck.
Great. That'll be put to good use to
protect
fight our petty crime.
Maybe the crime rate will go down next year.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
It's my prediction. Apparently Medicine Hat has the same truck as well, and their population is
half of ours, 50, I think, or something.
40% less. Yeah, something like that.
The other thing I was going to say about that is the crime index. It's no secret. Go and Google it. Lethbridge has the highest crime index. It includes speeding.
Yeah.
What? Why? How is that a crime index? So what? We drive fast here? We're an unsafe city? I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me, but maybe it's all the red light cameras or speeding cameras that we got at the intersections, which they don't have in BC.
Yeah. There's no photo radar in BC, but there definitely is in Lethbridge. So if you're driving through here, keep an eye out.
I just think that's a dumb stat to compare cities to if you're including traffic violations.
And every city, they report things differently. And it is what it is, but I don't feel unsafe in Lethbridge. My wife who moved here from Europe feels much more safe. We lived in London, UK. And let me tell you, it's a hell of a lot safer here.
Well, I just feel like the people that complain about Lethbridge being unsafe are people that live in Lethbridge and have lived here their
whole
entire
life,
life and have never lived anywhere else. Because I got family and clients that moved here from BC. So I'm usually out in BC at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, just to see family. And like how you look at the list of top 10 most dangerous cities, Vancouver's not on the list, yet it's home to East Hastings, which is like the Skid Row of Canada. How is that not on the list at all?
Yeah.
Like,
but in Vancouver, like the majority of people live in like apartment complexes where there's only one door to enter that's locked. So it's like, you can't even like, everyone in Lethbridge lives in single family homes pretty much. So if a vast majority of people live in condo complexes, their crime rate is going to be lower just because no one can see you kind of thing. No one can get in there.
you think?
Yeah. There's like a direct correlation between the amount of single family homes to the crime rate as well. So
really,
because Lethbridge has,
that's why I have Murray on the podcast.
We have a lot of single family homes and like more than pretty much anywhere, just because, land is, we just live in the prairies. You want to build a new home, you just go buy a acre of land from a farmer and just put up homes. Like in Toronto, they're limited by the green belt and they just have to keep building up,
Same in BC.
Same with Vancouver.
They got
BC.
so many mountains and ocean in the way that
it costs a lot more.
Build. Yeah. Just have to start doing what the Saudis do and put some sand on the ocean and start building on top of it.
Well, did you hear they're building a 100-kilometer long city, the Line?
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
In the desert.
Yeah. It's literally 100 kilometers and then it's like maybe, I don't know, 100 meters across and it just goes straight through the desert and they're building it. So that'll be interesting.
Crazy.
Yeah, I can't. That's crazy.
It's very interesting to hear though that your crime rate is directly correlated to single family detached because Lethbridge is very the opposite of dense. We're very not dense. What's that? We're very spread out.
Yeah, very spread out. Yeah, but
interesting.
Yeah. And what else do we got here?
Well, I'm looking at this article too, and they got predictions for all of these major cities across Canada. Lethbridge isn't in there, so subscribe so you can hear more.
Yeah. Immigration. Well, let's talk about how many people were moving into Alberta last year. So we had a population boost of 184,000 people just last year. A combination of people moving here from out of the country and a big majority, or maybe, I don't know if it was the majority, but a big chunk of people moving here from within Canada. So Ontario, BC.
To Alberta.
So 184,000 people. That's like nearly 2 Lethbridges worth of people coming here just in 1 year.
Yeah, when you think of it that way, it's like...
Which is insane.
Crazy.
Yeah. A lot of them ended up in Calgary. I think more people would end up in Lethbridge. It's just... Like I said, nobody talks about Lethbridge. People just don't know, right?
There's a lot of attention that gets put on Calgary. Calgary is an awesome city. Like if you're looking for a big city, Calgary is probably the place to go over Edmonton. Sorry, Edmonton. But if I had to choose, if you were like Edmonton or Calgary, I would definitely choose Calgary. But they get a lot of attention out there. And then that attention kind of gets like drifted off to if somebody can't afford Calgary, they're like, oh, we're thinking of Cochrane. Cochrane's not freaking cheap, guys. No, it's like closer to the mountains. Then they're like, oh, well, think about Okotoks. Well, sure. But if you just think a little bit broader than that, go a little bit more south, you get better weather and way cheaper houses, like almost half. So.
Yeah. And we're just as close to the mountains as Calgary. Calgary might be a little bit closer, but like if you want to go skiing, I'm a big snowboarder. So like our ski hills are like almost half the price, like Lake Louise or Banff or those areas.
And they're just crazy busy.
Yeah, super busy. And here we have just as beautiful mountains, but like less than half the people. So it's like actually you can get into the nature in the summer, go hiking. Yeah. And
is West Castle still, or Castle Mountain, is that still busy on the weekends? Like crazy busy?
Yeah, it can be busy on the weekends. But yeah, it's...
I just remember going to the last time I went to Sunshine, you had to park on like the gravel road leading up to it and wait for like their parking lot was full. So you're parking on like the road leading to it and wait for a shuttle or walk up. Yeah. Like that is busy. You can still find parking at Castle.
Oh yeah. You can walk, even if you're like parking in the far end of the parking lot to get to the lodge, it's like less than a 5-minute walk. And That's like the worst case scenario. And they just secured a new chairlift as well. So maybe in 10 years they'll have that installed. And the hills,
is that it's expanding. New runs then?
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to put the chairlift, but it's a high speed chairlift and should open up a lot more of the mountain. And then we need more people to move to Lethbridge to go to Castle.
I think last year we went in, I can't remember what month it was, but it was like middle of the week. We snuck out for a Thursday or something, completely dead. Like you just go down the hill, get on the lift, and there's like,
if you go in the middle of the week, even on like a huge powder day, there's not going to be too many people out there, but And so lots of people moving to Alberta. And then there was a report coming out from Immigration Canada that Canada plans to welcome 1.5 million new immigrants from 2024 to 2026. So they've increased their immigration target. I think last year it was like 500,000 people. Now it's 600,000 people per year that they're going to be moving in. And lots of those people are moving to the big cities, the only cities, I've gone traveling and I'm like, hey, I'm from Canada. And they're like, oh, are you from Toronto or Vancouver? It's like, no, I'm not. I'm from Alberta. And they just look at me with a blank stare. So lots of people are moving into Canada. And then, maybe some of them will end up in Alberta.
There's a theory behind this, why we're opening up so much immigration. And is because the more people you bring in, your GDP per capita doesn't fall as much, or it looks more appealing.
No, the GDP looks better, but the GDP per capita is actually lower.
Right. So like to politicize it some more, they bring in a bunch, like the government will bring in or increase immigration so that your GDP looks better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is like hurting us in like a bunch of other ways when it comes to housing.
Yeah. It might be hurting us a little bit right now, but eventually those people will get jobs and they will contribute to our society. And
for sure, but we just got to have places to freaking.
We just need to build more houses. Apparently, 3.5 million more houses. So,
I feel like it's like if the news articles were like, we're building a record number of homes, so we need more people. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Everybody would be great, would be on board for immigration, but it's really starting to like butt heads with people that we're putting the cart before the horse. Mm-hmm. It's really not fair even to like immigrants coming here when they don't have anywhere to go. Right. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But on the alternative, if we brought like nobody into Canada, our population would be probably decreasing right now. And home prices would probably be going down. So, but I don't know. I mean, pretty much any white person or anyone that's not a Native American in Canada immigrated one way or the other, right?
Absolutely. So, for sure.
Yeah.
We just got to have, I'm all for immigration, but we just got to have the resources to be able to do it properly. Yeah. And then it's a fantastic thing for everybody.
Yeah.
This isn't like the pioneer days where you go and set up your homestead and freaking pick rocks for a year and starve. Right?
When the government was literally giving away land for free around Lethbridge.
That's an idea.
Yeah. Bring that back. I'll take some.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Onto, there was a rental report coming out from rentals.ca. They analyzed the rents from the top 35 cities in Canada, and Lethbridge made the list on this one. I can't believe it. Red Deer wasn't nowhere to be found on the list, but Lethbridge was ranked 34th out of 35 on rental affordability. So if you're looking to move here to rent, it is a lot cheaper compared to, let's see, where did Calgary make the list?
Calgary's number 22.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
And Vancouver, obviously no surprise, is the most expensive. $2,700 a month for a one-bedroom rental.
For a one bed. Yeah. That's crazy.
Which is like a $500,000 mortgage, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. I don't, that you could just own a house.
Like a big house here,
just
right?
Repeating myself over and over. But yeah, Calgary was $1,700 for a one bed, and Lethbridge was $1,193 for a one bed. And if you compare that to like our home prices, a detached home in Calgary is nearly double the price, but they're not seeing double the amount of rents there. So yeah.
So if you're an investor looking at investing in real estate, Lethbridge is kind of like that sweet spot where prices are still low, but we're still getting a decent amount of rents. I mean, we're not Vancouver. You're not going to like become rich overnight owning rentals. That should never be the case. But if you hold it long-term, put renters in there, provide a good service for your tenants, again, everybody wins. You'll win long-term and your renters have a place to live. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What is our rentals increased as well? What percentage are these? Month over month, we're down. Year over year, we're up 2.2% and 1.1% on a 2-bedroom, which is good. Not crazy amounts. Like, are there any big increases? Not really. Most of them actually softened a bit. Like Vancouver's down 5.8% or 4% year over year. So it used to be more expensive to rent in Vancouver.
Yeah. Apparently, Burnaby, they went up 6% year over year. Burnaby, BC.
Yeah.
So
what the heck?
what's going on in Burnaby?
Everyone's moving from Vancouver to Burnaby.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure how far Burnaby is from Vancouver, but yeah,
it's all like Vancouver's
one big
like
metropolitan area. Yeah.
New West and Burnaby, Richmond, like they're all in that kind of area. So
yeah,
I just think as closer you get to like downtown core Vancouver, it gets more expensive. Obviously, as we're seeing.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for what's going on. And
so the time comes. What's your prediction for 2024, Murray? For the Lethbridge housing market.
Prediction for 2024. Well, I mean, it does kind of hinge on interest rates a little bit. What's your prediction for interest rates? Well, they're saying they're going to go down. I don't know. I think they're going to hold them. Yeah, probably until like summer. So I wouldn't expect to see an interest rate decrease before like at least June. But yeah, that also hinges on inflation. And but yeah, we didn't see like a huge increase last year. So I feel like we're due for a slightly larger increase this year. And yeah, I think home prices are going to go up and maybe like
how much?
2%. I feel like Lethbridge is pretty steady, Eddie. If you look at like the last 10, 15 years, it's like 2% year over year, keeping up with inflation or sometimes doing better. So 2% increase for home prices. So get in. You heard it here first. Get in now, get a 2% decrease.
I'm going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
For 2024, I'm a big believer that there's going to be even more people moving to Lethbridge. I kind of thought in like 2022 or end of 2021 that as interest rates started to go up, it was going to make, it kind of sounds counterintuitive, but it was going to make it a little bit more affordable to own a home in BC and Ontario, which it kind of did. But those interest rates had a bigger effect on those people living there that I thought when that happened, nobody was going to continue to move to Alberta interprovincially, but I actually think it backfired and more people started to move, and then they stopped. Alberta stopped those campaigns for people to move to Alberta too, and BC and Ontario. Yeah. So I thought that was going to have a big impact on it. But I think if interest rates drop, it's going to look even more appealing because as they drop, Ontario and BC housing market's going to go back up. The Lethbridge market is still going to be very stable, and it's going to be harder to get in them. They're going to get more competing offers, and it's just going to drive people again even more to come to Alberta. So I do think that's going to play a big, that's going to have a big effect on our market out here. Average house price, probably, you can't really say it's going to go more than 2% because it really hasn't in a ton of years. So it's definitely not going to go down. Could increase a little bit. I don't see it increasing dramatically. But it's definitely not going down, especially with interest rates dropping. Yeah,
and with the record low amount of homes on the market, it's just supply and demand. We don't really have the supply, and we definitely have the demand. And, 1 + 1 is 2, and home prices are going to go up.
And then listings, I could see if interest rates start dropping steadily that we could see more listings, but I still think inventories, we're going to struggle with it. Yeah. 2024.
A lot of people as well, they're still on low interest rates. They haven't felt the full effects of the increased interest rates yet. And they're going to be coming into renewing their mortgage here pretty soon. And maybe they'll think about downsizing. Maybe.
That's a good point. As they start rolling over onto the new interest rates, that could increase the amount of sales that are out there. So, and if they still locked into that interest rate and they bought before 2020, basically, they could do very well. So a lot of people think that, they're going to renew and they're going to have to dump their house because they can't afford it. the market here is so cheap that like your interest rate difference, it's only a couple $100.
Yeah.
Whereas people in Vancouver, when your house price is $1 million, and I've been saying this for a long time too, when your housing price is $1 million and your interest rate goes from 1 to 6, oh my God, that's like, could be like $1,000, $1,500 a month, which is like killer. Like, how do you afford that?
Yeah.
Whereas out here, when your home price is $350 and it goes from 1 to 5%, that's like maybe another $300 or $400 a month, which sucks, but it's still manageable, right? So
exactly,
you can do skip the dishes, like go drive for skip the dishes and afford it. Whereas in Vancouver, if you had to go skip the dishes to cover that interest rate difference, not happening.
Yeah.
So that's why, again, our housing market is so stable, is because like those little interest rate hikes, they're a pain, but they're not unmanageable. You don't see people selling off their homes like crazy.
Yeah, because our homes are a third the price of Toronto. The interest rates affect us a third as much. So yeah, a 5% increase is like equivalent to like a 15% increase somewhere else, or like the amount of money or whatever. So
exactly.
Yeah, God forbid we see a 15% increase.
I hope not.
Nope.
So yeah, that's it for 2023 and 2024. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys do want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, I think I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe on any of those podcast platforms. Be sure to rate this, because it is a fairly new podcast, but we're picking up some momentum. And if you guys want to check out Murray on his channel, I'll leave a link down in the description below. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Okay, bye.